got to do this week?
I took time off. So I was out on
did.
Monday and Tuesday, and Tyler's talking too.
Oh.
So I went and did float therapy. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes.
The sensory deprivation.
Was it great?
It was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I highly recommend like going into it with like a clear, calm, relaxed state of mind, because I was there, I had a 60-minute float, and by 30 minutes I was like, okay, I'm done.
Did they put you in one of those
The
pods? It looks like an egg. I'm so claustrophobic, I couldn't do that.
I think they have other options.
Yeah, because I thought I kind of looked them up. I didn't know what it was, and I looked it up, and I was like, I don't think you could stick me in that pod. I'd be clawing at the. Let me out.
Yeah, that doesn't sound relaxing.
No.
I don't like enclosed spaces, and I was just fine. But I wouldn't say that I'm like super claustrophobic, but I definitely don't like being closed in.
Yeah.
And it was interesting.
But it wasn't maybe your thing. Would you try it again?
I would, but I wouldn't drink coffee that day.
Oh.
I think that may have been why.
Did
like,
you just want to go
You just
swimming?
couldn't relax.
I mean, I would relax for the first 30 minutes, and I was kind of meditating, and I felt like I got my message, and I was like, okay, now I have to go start working on the things, right? So next time, no coffee. And
I kind of wanted to do it with my husband because he doesn't like people to touch him. So I wanted to do like a couples massage, but he
Totally giving him a hug.
it would make him so uncomfortable. I've told you the story before, probably. Like on our first date, at the end of our first date, he walked me up to my door and he went like this. And I was like,
He shook your hand?
he went to go shake my hand.
What
I
a
was
gentleman.
Like, I was like, not happening.
See, and my
at least
husband's
it wasn't
the
like
opposite.
high five.
I don't know, actually. Maybe
My
that's
husband's the
true.
opposite. Like if he came up to you today, like he's hardly met you, he would hug you, and he'd probably make you feel uncomfortable. Like,
I don't
hi,
get
I'm Darby's
uncomfortable.
husband, and he's a hugger, and
Yeah.
my husband's very touchy feely.
So cute.
I just thought maybe are we live?
Oh, woohoo!
Well,
Hello.
that was fast. Welcome everyone to Plant Therapies Live, your one-stop shop for natural product news, easy DIYs, and tips for natural living. Let's get started. A lot of people asking about DIY. That is one of the best ways we delight our customers.
What? Do you know what that is?
Oh my!
Show you how to use those oils and how to combine them. Can customers who have kids use non-kid safe oils in their home? I think it just puts such a personal touch on the oils.
We're always looking for that sustainable sourcing.
So that's a really good way to use essential oils in your first trimester.
This is also a great choice if you're not a big lavender fan.
And we always try to do the right thing around the world and leave it a better place.
Oh, it's too funny. Welcome back. Today's show is all about essential oils 101. I always like to say 1 and 1. 101. So we are going back to the basics here on this live for everyone today. But first, we are going to have
Katrina.
Darby. I was like,
Definitely not Emma.
I don't know who's doing it. Today we are going to have Darby start us off with natural product news.
All right, so today we're talking about one of the most popular and one of my favorite essential oils, lavender. Lavender has been used across the centuries for perfume, cleaning, relaxation, my personal favorite, mummification, grief, skincare, burns, and more. Cleopatra was said to have used lavender to seduce Julius Caesar and Mark Antony.
I mean,
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Are we sure this isn't the Valentine's show?
I'm not sure. It's just getting a little saucy for lavender.
I just think that there's probably better flowers to use for
to
seduction.
seduce someone.
Yeah, I was
Probably for a lot of people. I mean, I would think
Maybe
they would
she
fall
used them to like
asleep.
put them to sleep.
Exactly, put them to sleep.
Or maybe
Give 'em a headache.
like people didn't
Right.
bathe a lot back then, so she just smelled nice.
That's
right.
true.
So
Yeah,
they're
that's
like,
true.
oh, you smell.
Yeah, you don't
like,
smell
not
like you
you,
haven't bathed
right?
in
That's
2 months.
true. Okay,
That's
okay.
fine.
It
In
all
the
makes sense now.
1930s, French chemist René Maurice Emilee says this better than me.
Gadaface.
Gadaface discovered the burn healing benefits when he suffered a burn on his hand and applied lavender oil. This man is also credited with having coined the term aromatherapy. Lavender, the dried flower, so the actual flower, not the oil, is also a popular yet unconventional ingredient in cooking. I have tried it in cooking.
I love lavender.
I do
in
too.
Like my drinks, my cookies, my baked goods.
I had lavender caramels.
Oh.
And they were really yummy.
There
But
was a lavender simple syrup that I had gotten and used in like a bunch of recipes. So good, you guys.
It's just the only thing that I will say is kind of strange when you're eating something with lavender is, you know how lavender
Does it
smells?
taste like lavender?
It tastes like it smells. I mean, it's kind of
And when
weird.
you don't love the smell of lavender, although I use it all the time, which really confuses customers. So maybe we'll talk about that later. I don't enjoy it in cooking either.
Yeah, no, it's something that's kind of
sad.
unique. But it's excellent for baked goods, ice creams, salad dressings, which is interesting to me, and syrups. Lavender is a versatile, useful plant that has a variety of uses throughout the whole home.
Yeah.
Now I'm wanting some lavender,
Now
like
we're
shortbread
craving
cookies.
some lavender.
Oh, sounds so good.
For those of you that are watching this live, tell us, have you ever eaten anything with lavender in it? I see some customers are saying it sometimes tastes like
lemonade.
soap.
Lavender lemonade,
I
though.
think, yeah,
Oh,
lavender
yes,
lemonade I think
yes.
is really
Sounds good.
popular.
We
I see that a
actually tried
lot.
a CBD flavor in the lavender lemonade, interestingly enough. But we didn't move forward with it because it wasn't quite right. But
Did I hear one of you guys say tuna?
What?
Lavender tuna?
No.
I don't think you heard that.
Daddy, that would just be something you would probably
A
try.
lot of lavender tea. A lot of customers who are joining this live mentioned
Lavender
lavender tea.
lattes. Oh, lavender Earl Grey tea. That
One
is
customer said, I'm not saying I have lavender vodka, but I love lavender vodka.
My mother-in-law she's a horticulturist, so she has her degree in that, and then she's also like a master baker, and she makes lavender cookies that are really good, and then she'll make cookies where she puts pansies on them too that you eat.
Oh,
What do we have to
cute.
do to get some of these?
Oh, I could
I
probably
want
pull
the
some
one with the
strings.
pansy,
Yeah.
not a lavender.
The pansies don't really taste like anything, but they look really
But
good.
they're
on the
pretty.
cookie. Yeah,
And you can
so
eat them. which
That
is
might be a
exciting.
treat that I have her make for us sometimes.
It should be. Okay, so that is a little bit about product news, specifically with lavender. And now we have a guest that is going to join us. We have to all put in our headphones so we can hear the guest and ourselves.
And not only that, I just got a message from Jamie. She was wondering if, Emilee, we can move you over to the edge of the couch.
But then I don't have a backrest.
Well, or
You said that
guys
was like an
move over a
accent.
little bit so
I don't
that
have a backrest.
we can see, because right now we have Darby
Oh, like
in
cut
front
off.
of
Oh, Tyler. Oh,
Tyler,
here.
yeah.
Here, let me
Oh,
see.
actually,
Can
yeah,
see
just
now?
scoot over this
Can I
way.
scoot
There you
over?
go.
Really?
And then
Okay, there we
turn
go.
around.
Sorry,
Oh.
Tyler.
There we go. Oh, if you lean on there. Oh, Tyler, now we can see your beautiful face.
Just gonna slouch right here.
Sorry
Now
about
we're all
that,
talking
Tyler.
with an accent.
Okay. So Tyler, welcome to our live again today. I know that our customers love to have Tyler on this live. A lot of them are familiar with him as he runs our Safe Essential Oil recipes page. And so a lot of our customers are familiar with Tyler, and he brings just a ton of knowledge to our lives, as well as to that page, but specifically to our lives when he's on. So we appreciate him being here today.
So happy to be here.
Tyler, I know that you weren't prepared for the first question, but since I've been talking this whole time, we're going to make you answer the first question if you're okay with that. Starting out at the very basics, what is an essential oil?
So an essential oil is essentially just an extract from the plant. Oftentimes, essential oils are created by steam distilling plant materials, which then makes those oils come out of the plant, and they essentially mix with water that's used and heated up, and then they eventually float to the top because water and oil don't mix. And then that oil that's left at the top of the water in the barrel is your essential oil. And then the water below it is what we recognize as a hydrosol.
I think sometimes when people think of essential oil, it's like, this mysterious thing. But really, when you break it down, I mean, it's just an aromatic liquid that comes from plants, fruits, roots, just lots of different parts of the plants. And one time we did a video, we did like a top 15 question series on our YouTube, and you can go to our YouTube channels to find it. But what I love is in one of the videos, we squeeze the rind of a fruit and you can just see the oils flying out of it. So it's not like this mysterious thing, how is an essential oil, where does it come from, right? It's just aromatic liquid, scented liquid that is part of the plant. If you go to really any plant, right, a rose petal, I love to do it with like a peppermint plant, and you sit there and rub it and your hands get wet and they smell very aromatic, that's the essential oil. Like, it's as easy as that.
I love to describe it that way to people. So like if you're in a garden and you just put your nose up to a rose or a flower, what you're smelling is actually that plant's essential oil inside of there. It's its essence. That's where the name came from. And I think that's really neat.
Yeah. So Tyler, you explained kind of is what an essential oil, how do you get an essential oil, right? And you explained the steam distillation process, but what are other ways that you can extract an essential oil? What are other forms of essential oils?
So there are different types of aromatic extracts that we have sold or do sell and that you can get in the stores. Absolutes are an example of one. And while they're not technically considered essential oils by definition, they are highly aromatic materials that are solvently extracted using, it's kind of a long, drawn out, multi-step process that uses hexane, which then creates something called a concrete, which is just like a thick bunch of aromatic plant material. And then that's, dissolved using ethanol. And then eventually we separate the ethanol out from the plant material, and then we have the absolute. And then there are essences. Essences are often created as a part of like juicing, like widespread commercial juicing. They're created from both cold pressing and something called hydrodistillation. Hydrodistillation is a process that's often used for plants that are more delicate, that they just couldn't withstand the high extreme temperatures of steam distillation, but it's created from boiling water. And that's, in the case of our essences, so we have lemon, tangerine,
orange.
And orange. Yeah. So lemon, orange, and mandarin. And
what I love about essences too is it smells like the whole fruit, where the essential oil via cold press or steam distillation comes just from the rind, and so it smells like the rind. Essences are much more complex and smell like the whole fruit, which I think is really unique with them.
They're definitely more juicier, and that's because when we use something called hydrodistillation, we're able to not only use the rind of the fruit, but the actual fruit itself. Yep. So the whole fruit rather than just the peel.
Yeah, so you get that juiciness. It's lovely.
Yes, they are my favorite. And then we have CO2s, which are, again, not technically an essential oil, but still a highly aromatic extract. It also uses kind of a solvent extraction method, but it uses carbon dioxide that's pressurized into a liquid. Then once the carbon dioxide is a liquid, it's then used to solvently extract the oil from the plants. When we use this method, there's no residue left behind, and the essential oil is removed using lower temperatures, which results in a much stronger, more potent extract that contains a lot more constituents than regular steam distilled essential oils because it doesn't use those extreme temperatures.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people who are familiar with essential oils know that you don't want essential oils to get really hot, right? But essential oils get hot during steam distillation, and so you lose a lot of those minor constituents that kind of fall off, and you don't with the CO2 extraction. So it's much more complex. It's much closer to the actual plant material than what you get with the steam distilled essential oil.
Right, and that's why absolutes and CO2s tend to have much lower dilution rates than regular essential oils do.
Yeah. Okay, we have some questions coming in from customers that Danny's gonna ask us really fast before we continue.
Yeah, I thought these were really good questions. So, Melissa T was wondering, can you diffuse an essence?
Yes, you can definitely diffuse an essence.
Yep, you would just use it like any other essential oil, and it's actually the chemical makeup of the essence versus the essential oil is very similar. It just smells more complex. Smells like the whole fruit instead of just the rind. But even just when you're looking at a GCMS, I forgot that name for a minute, the chemical makeup is actually very, very similar.
And one thing that's important to remember when you're diffusing those essences or citruses in general is that they are super volatile, so they do kind of disperse a lot more quickly. So I always like to blend them with like a base note so that scent continues even after you've been diffusing for a little bit. So that's a good tip if you're diffusing those essences.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. There was another question, but I'll wait for that one later.
Okay, I did see one customer ask about a lavender essence, and essences just come from fruit because it is part of the juicing process of that fruit. So you can't get like a lavender essence or a peppermint essence. Those don't exist. It's from fruit because it's part of it's what's really kind of left over from the juicing process. They like separate it from the juice, which is interesting.
That's so cool.
There are products on the market, and I think it's important to differentiate them between like an aromatic essence that we sell. So when you see like flower essences and stuff like that at the store, it's basically just an extract. It's the flower material or the plant material that's soaked in. Often it can be ethanol is usually what it is, or some other type of high proof ethanol. Some are made with rum. I know a couple brands that are made with rum, but they're not aromatic. They're more like tinctures that you take.
Cleopatra's was probably made with rum, her lavender.
Yeah.
I would guess. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess that's a great point. You might be able to find a lavender essence, but it's not the type of essence that we are talking about where you get that experience.
Right.
It would just be a different type of, not an extraction. It would be a different type of extraction. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I better go back to this and so we can see. Okay, Katrina.
Amy.
Darby, what is an essential oil isolate? So we've talked about what is an essential oil, how do you get essential oils, what type of extraction methods are there. We also use isolates in some of our scents, right? That in like our body care scent or a household scent, sometimes there might be an ingredient that's an isolate. So what is an essential oil isolate?
And I think that's great because when people kind of see that sometimes on ingredients, it can be kind of confusing because they're very similar to the essential oil, but they're different. So isolates are actually, essential oils as a whole are made up of all these different constituents. They have all these naturally occurring chemical components to them. And we now with science, because science is amazing, we have discovered how you can actually take out some of those components. You can pull those constituents out of an essential oil and you result in an isolate. And then you can use those isolated components and add them to things to kind of boost up the aroma, boost up the smell, or just boost up the blend itself. It's actually a really interesting process.
Yeah, it is. And it's cool because when you're using essential oils to develop fragrances, right, scents, you have a lot of limitations because every single one of those isolates or chemical constituents that make up the aroma of an essential oil smells different, right? It's the combination of them that makes the essential oil smell the way it does. And so when you're trying to combine all of these different scents, it's a lot harder to really pinpoint some aromas. But when you're extracting those isolates and using the isolate itself, you have a lot more flexibility on what kind of aromas you can create.
And you're doing it naturally too, which is what's so phenomenal about it is we, with science and developments in essential oils, we've discovered how to really boost up a fragrance and to do it still naturally.
Yeah, it's really cool. Tyler, Emilee, do you want to say anything about isolates?
I think you guys got it covered.
Okay, so next is you will often see us talk about blends, also known as synergies. Plant therapy used to call them synergies, but we changed to blend because that is a word that more people were familiar with. So you will see that plant therapy sells a whole line of blends. We sell kid-safe blends, we sell regular blends. So what is a blend? A blend is when we are taking essential oils and combining them to either accomplish a therapeutic purpose or an aroma. So our seasonal blends, like the ones that you will find in our Happy Spring set, those blends are created specifically for aromatic purposes, right? We want them to smell amazing. We want them to remind you of spring. And so we're going to take different essential oils and combine them to create a scent that smells like spring, right? That smells like being out on a rainy day or in, a meadow of flowers or whatever it might be. We are using 100% pure essential oils, right? But we are just combining those to create a smell that smells like whatever we want it to smell like. And then you have our therapeutic blends, and those are going to be like our germ fighter or our relax or our sleep aid. Now those blends are, I'm going to say, probably much more complex to create because not only do we need them to smell good, because people don't want to use something that stinks, right? So when we're creating these blends, we want them to smell good, but they also need to work. So when you go and buy, our relax blend because you need help with relaxation, we want that to smell good, but we also need it to actually help you relax. And so when we're creating those blends, we're looking at the GCMS reports. We're looking at all the constituents. What are the therapeutic benefits of those constituents? And we're combining all of these therapeutic benefits of these constituents and essential oils to combine this, to make this synergistic effect that makes it more powerful than just one essential oil on its own could be. So that's why we have blends.
I would get asked a lot about when we had our seasonal blends, like when they would come out, some customers almost felt like, I'd love for it to smell good, but I really love my oils to have a purpose. They had a hard time splurging on something that maybe didn't have some therapeutic benefit. And I told them, I said, that's what's so exciting about essential oils is even though this was kind of blended with more of like the aromatic sense of it in mind, it's still made with your pure essential oils. So there's going to be oils in there that are going to be uplifting, they're going to be energizing, they might be relaxing, you might be able to blend them and use them in like some skincare and things like that. So you can get some therapeutic benefit out of them. They just weren't blended necessarily with that in mind.
Yeah, and I think it's important that there's a reason aromatherapy is called aromatherapy, right? The aroma of things are therapeutic in of themselves. Is that how you say that?
That sounded good.
Sounds funny coming out. Thank you. And so even just the scent, right? The scent alone, when it reminds you of spring and you love being outdoors after a rainy day, like a blend that is blended for that aromatic purpose can still bring that same like peace and calm and relaxation to you because it is using these natural essential oils.
That's me with Fresh Meadows. Fresh Meadows was just blended to smell beautiful, but it's a happy smell for me. Yeah. I actually diffuse it year round just because it makes me feel good and it's just a really happy smell for me.
I know a lot of people who suffer from seasonal depressive disorder, seasonal anxiety disorder, SAD, who use a lot of these like really spring, summer scents during the winter because it really helps them when they're going through some of that seasonal depression and seasonal anxiety, just the scent in and of itself. And I think that's one thing I love about essential oils is just the scent. Like, how incredibly powerful is that it has such a strong effect on our feelings and our emotions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You know how some foods that are, like, if you had to choose between a piece of cake and a head of broccoli for flavor, a piece of cake is not as good for you, like, as a piece of broccoli would be. It's
I don't know where he's going with this.
He's just wanting some cake is what I think he's trying to tell us.
I was just thinking, like, how that'd be so funny if, like, people were like, this can't be good for you, it smells too good.
Oh.
You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
like chocolate
So
truffle.
really the opposite of cake and broccoli. It
Exactly.
can smell good and also be
cake
good
is good
for
for
you.
your soul, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it has its purpose.
Cake
I'm
is
just
very
saying.
good for my soul. Not
I
good
mean,
for my
even if
thighs,
it wasn't,
but-
I'm still going to eat a piece of cake.
this is true. This is true.
I thought Danny was going to start talking about bacon again because I just feel like bacon creeps its way into our conversations every week.
Oh, that is too funny, Danny. He almost
cake.
got there.
Bacon cake.
Bacon cake. That's
Bacon
actually
cake.
probably a thing.
Bacon donuts.
Yeah, that is a thing.
That is a thing.
With lavender.
I think now is a really good time to talk about natural fragrances, and this is something that we get asked about a lot, so I'm glad that we have some time to address it. So you may have noticed that on some of our recent products, on the label itself, we've listed natural fragrance versus listing out all of the different essential oils and isolates in that blend. And the reason we do that is primarily label space. If you see our labels, they're so small and we have so much information to put on them that oftentimes we have to say natural fragrance. But on our website, you can always find out the information of what is in that product. So natural fragrance, I think a lot of people, when they hear the term fragrance, they get a little nervous, right? But what plant therapy means when we say natural fragrance is we're blending with essential oils and isolates. And like Darby mentioned earlier, isolates are just essential oil constituents that have been isolated. And using isolates allow us to create fragrances that we would never be able to create with essential oils on their own. So one thing that we've been, I'll give you guys a little something. One thing that we've been working on recently and just playing around with is like, how do we create an apple-like scent using essential oils? Well, just essential oils, you get kind of some appliness from like Roman chamomile, things like that, but it doesn't really hit the nail on the head. So by adding in some natural isolates that are already occurring in essential oils, you're able to create some of these really unique scents and do it naturally and safe. So that's what I love about natural fragrances, and I don't want our customers to be like nervous when they see that. We're not using anything, that is concerning from a safety perspective, any kind of synthetics, anything like that. It's just natural plant materials that are isolated along with essential oils.
Yeah, and also with that, you hear people often say, like, look at the ingredients, and the least amount of ingredients means it's more natural, right? But that doesn't always work when you're talking about the scent that comes from that, because when you are using synthetic fragrances, you can list like one synthetic fragrance that makes it smell amazing, right? But when you're using natural aromas, you often have to use a lot more to create scents that aren't, lavender or peppermint, right? To create kind of these unique scents, you have to use more natural aromas. And that's why you're going to be pulling out some of the isolates, right? So now you have maybe a few essential oils plus, a few isolates, and all of a sudden you have this ingredient list that contains, 6 to 10 different scents that make up that aroma of that finished good. And it might be overwhelming for someone to look at that and be like, whoa, that's a lot of ingredients, right? But it's just these individual isolates or essential oils that we're using to make up these scents. Where someone who's using a synthetic fragrance wouldn't have to worry about that, right? Because you don't have to have the complexity of the natural aromas to create this final, this final amazing scent that you get with using natural scents. So that's also something to keep in mind as well.
There was a couple of really good questions here.
Great.
So, and I can't remember who asked it, but they were asking, does an isolate have the same aromathetic?
Therapeutic benefits.
Benefits?
Yeah.
Yes,
Benefits as
absolutely.
Absolutely. It is the isolates or the individual chemical constituents that make up the therapeutic value of an essential oil. So just like with the blend, when we're combining multiple essential oils to have to create a synergistic effect that is more powerful than a single essential oil, you get that with isolates as well, right? So the more chemical constituents it gives lavender, let's say, for example, all the chemical constituents give lavender its amazing therapeutic benefit. So when you're removing one of those, although it can still be therapeutic, it's not going to be like the whole lavender plant would be, right? But linalool is super high in lavender, and it's what gives it its relaxing benefit, and you're still going to get a relaxing therapeutic benefit from linalool itself.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of the studies that we see on essential oils oftentimes are on their individual constituents, and that's how we gather the information on what potentially the therapeutic properties of that oil could be. So lavender is probably not the greatest example because it's probably one of the most studied essential oils there is, but there are also a lot of studies on linalool and linalool acetate that are, large components within that product that really give it, its awesome benefits. So I think that's important to know too, is just a lot of those studies and where we're able to gather information on what the oil does is based on their individual constituents as well.
And especially when you're talking about new essential oils, right? Because the essential oil industry is constantly finding new essential oils, right? New ways to extract, new plants to extract from. And sometimes you get this essential oil and nobody's heard of it, nobody's know anything about it, and you start to look at the GCMS report. You look at the constituents that are found in that oil, and because of the studies that are done on isolates, we can say this oil has this therapeutic benefit, and here's safety aspects of this oil as well, right? We know that linalool is a super safe constituent. So when you're finding it in something that's brand new and it's a large percent of it, we know that that most likely is going to be a safer oil to use, right? You aren't going to have to dilute it as much or whatever that might be. So
well, and kind of on that note, Tyler and I were part of our Kids Safe committee, and that's something that we actually use quite a bit is when we're getting ready to come out with something new, like a new oil of the month or something like that. Our Kids Safe committee actually dives into those GCMS reports, and we are looking at those isolates. We are looking at those constituents and the percentages of them, and then what we know about those individual components to help us determine if that would be an oil or a blend that we would deem to be safe to use in your home with children. So it's actually, you feel really smart when you start to like really dive into GCMS reports and look at all those things and learn how to pronounce some of those things, which I still can't probably 90% of them say correctly, but yeah.
No one here is going to know any difference to correct you.
So that being said, we know that like lavender is an example. Lavender can change, or the constituents can change in lavender depending on the growth season and stuff like that. Do we as a company add constituents? So like if a batch of lavender comes to us that has a low linalool count, do we add linalool to a batch, or can you explain that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Plant therapy chooses not to. So that's called standardization, right? It's when a company is using isolates to create a standard report, right? A standard constituent breakup of an essential oil. Some companies choose to do that. Plant therapy chooses not to. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because they might be just adding natural isolates to change the end results of that essential oil makeup, right? I think what's important is that if a company chooses to do that, they need to tell people, their consumers, their customers, that they are doing that. And unfortunately, a lot of companies do not. But plant therapy likes the complexity of the essential oils, right? I don't know. I like that it's really what the plant provided, right? And that is going to change.
Yeah, it is. And I love how you can have 2 different bottles of lavender in front of you, and they're gonna have that same, traditional lavender aroma, but they might just be a little bit different. And if you're making things at home, there may be one that you kind of like a little bit more, and it gives you that kind of flexibility with the product too.
And we do, when we're sourcing essential oils, we do look at several different things. We do look at GCMS first and foremost. That's most important to make sure that what we're purchasing is safe. It meets the standard that we have set. But secondarily, we also look at aroma as well. So every sample that we bring in goes through our organoleptic review, where we're making sure that the aroma is hopefully in line as much as possible with our last batch. But even that said, there are some times when we find something that is just amazing from a chemical perspective, knocks it out of the park, that is, maybe scent-wise a little bit different than the last batch.
A bit greener,
yes,
or yeah.
Oftentimes the greener conversation gets brought up, right? Because that's one thing that does happen fairly regularly, especially with like your lavender. It'll be a little bit more green, but we're always going to purchase based on the quality of the oil, and then organoleptic, comes second. But all of our oils do go through that organoleptic review.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point to bring up, Danny. Thanks. Okay, so we've talked about essential oils. What are they? How do you get essential oils? What are they made up of? Now, we've also kind of mentioned when you're looking at the constituents, that also defines how to use an oil, right? The safety aspect. Is it kid safe? What do you have to dilute it to? And so I think that's really important when we're talking about the basics of essential oils. How do you use essential oils? Well, plant therapy recommends that all essential oils be diluted. And there's really lots of reasons for that. But a couple of the main ones are, one, essential oils are expensive, right? And when you are using just a drop of essential oil, you're going to go through your essential oils much faster if you're not diluting them. When you're adding an essential oil, diluting it in a carrier oil, that carrier oil is literally grabbing onto the essential oil, which is naturally aromatic and volatile and disperses into the air. So when you're diluting it in a carrier oil, it's literally grabbing onto that essential oil and helping it last longer, right? So you're diluting it, you have a palm full of carrier oil, and you put a drop of essential oil and you rub it, and you're rubbing it all over your body, right? That one drop is going to go much farther than if you were just to put a drop of essential oil on and rub it all over your body. It's going to last a lot longer, and it's going to go a lot further. So even when you take the safety aspect out of it, you can use less essential oils when you're diluting them, which in turn saves you money, right? So that in and of itself, I think, is a reason to dilute essential oils. Another reason to dilute essential oils is because of the safety aspect. So some essential oils, and I think that there's lots of reasons to dilute essential oils, but Tyler, what could be one of the main reasons that we would recommend customers dilute essential oils?
So some essential oils, when you look at like the constituents and stuff like that, some constituents are a little more harsh on the skin. This is something that is common with what we refer to as hot oils. Hot oils are essential oils that can create a really strong hot or very warming sensation on the skin. Some examples of these may include cinnamon, clove, lemongrass, oregano, all of which, if you look, have very low max dermal rates, which basically means there's very little essential oil used and more carrier oil used. And the reason that we do this is because these hot oils, because they do have that hot effect on the skin, can actually cause your skin to burn. And it can do some serious damage if you do it in large quantities or in large areas of the body. And they can be very irritating. And kind of once you have this effect too many times, it's kind of like an allergy. Like even just smelling an essential oil at that point could cause your body to react in a negative way. And that's because your body has to fight off these reactions and fight against them. And you kind of develop kind of like an allergic reaction to it, which is what we in aromatherapy as a whole call sensitization. And so that's one of the main reasons, like in these oils in particular, that diluting is highly important.
And that's why, like Tyler mentioned, you're going to see different dilution recommendations, right? Sometimes you'll see dilute to 2 to 5%. And what that means is you want, of your finished product, you want 2 to 5% of that to be essential oil. So think about that, right? There are individuals who don't dilute essential oils, and they're just using straight essential oils. And then plant therapy is recommending you to use 1%. 1% of a finished good we're recommending to be essential oils. That's how strong essential oils are. You can dilute it so that only 1% of the product that you're using is an essential oil and it still works. Like there truly is no need to ever use essential oils undiluted.
No, there's really not.
No, there's not. And so when we talk about diluting essential oils, there are different dilution rates that can be based on the essential oil chemical makeup. And part of that is because some oils are hot, some oils just are more sensitive to skins. So when we're talking about all of that, Darby, how do you dilute essential oils?
So it can also be really situational, right? So there's going to be instances where you may be spraying your ankle or you get a bruise, or it's going to be something that you're going to be using your particular blend for a very short amount of time. So in those instances, depending on how sensitive your skin and obviously also the age of the person you're using this with, you can maybe dilute a little bit higher. You're still diluting, but you're using maybe more essential oils, less of your carrier. Now, if it's something you're going to use every single day or something you're going to use for skincare, like on your face, and our face is so delicate, you're going to want to use less. You're going to want to do that 1% or that 2%. Just really so your body can kind of acclimate to it at a safe rate, that you're not overwhelming your body. And I love the versatility of diluting too. There's a lot of different products that you can use to dilute your essential oils. And sometimes that carrier that you're using, it can have a lot of benefits too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have some examples here. I'll try to reach over and not drop them in my coffee, or, I'm kind of clumsy like that. But there's kind of some examples, and this is just a few, but most commonly you'll see like a carrier oil. Retha talked about how the fatty acids in a carrier, they kind of latch on to those really light essential oils. Essential oils love fatty components. And so like a grapeseed, a coconut, an almond oil, they're really high in those fatty acids. So essential oils, it's going to make them really happy to be put in this. And it's going to disperse in this. And when you put it on your body, it's going to spread more evenly. And then you can kind of choose your carrier. Like if you have really dry skin, you could actually use something like an almond oil or a jojoba. And not only are you getting the benefits of the essential oils you're putting in there, but the carrier oil is actually offering you some benefits too. And then another one that's one of my favorites I use quite a bit is aloe jelly. So if you want something to absorb pretty quickly, or to be cooling on your skin, or going back to lavender, we've talked about lavender a lot this show, but you get a sunburn, been out in the sun. I mean, looking at me, you could probably guess that that happens to me quite a bit. It never happens to me. But, putting like a little bit of lavender in your aloe jelly and kind of rubbing it on your skin, and it's cooling and it's hydrating and it's nourishing. And so I love that when you're diluting, you can get kind of creative. You can get creative with your essential oils, and you can get creative with what you're putting your essential oils into.
Yeah, and you can find our dilution chart on our downloads page, which is planttherapy.com/downloads. And there's a dilution chart on there. So it tells you how to, if plant therapy is saying dilute to 1 to 2%, it's going to tell you how to get that 1% dilution. Because I realize that can be confusing, right? You're like, I need 1% of this. Like, how do I calculate
when I
that?
first got
We
into
have
essential
dilution
oils,
charts.
that was the most confusing part to me, because I would see all these percentages and like, why can't they just say like put 3 drops in this? But now, you know, I understand
much more complex.
it's much more complex, but really once you start doing it and playing around with it, you get more comfortable. And there's a chart that we have too that talks about all of our carriers too. And so if you're kind of curious, like which carrier would be best for this situation, we have a chart that kind of talks about our carrier oils too.
Yeah. Yes, Danny.
I just have a quick question. What happens if you get a hot oil on your skin? Do you just have to, do you wash it off with, what's the best way to take care of that before it does too much damage?
Yeah, so I think putting something like a carrier oil on top of it is really going to be your best solution, right?
Yes.
If you get a hot oil on your skin accidentally, put a bunch of carrier oil on that and it will start to grab those oils.
It's going to pull those essential oils kind of out of your skin a little bit, and then also help to kind of nourish your skin, because your skin's going to be really sore and irritated, and so adding that carrier onto it's going to kind of help it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever like chopped jalapenos and like gotten like jalapeno into your nail beds and it burns so much?
Yes.
When you do that, you don't normally wash your hands, right? Because that's just going to accelerate that burn. Whereas if you add, I know a lot of people will like use a fatty like milk or carrier, something along those lines that will help to draw out some of those really aggressive constituents and help to calm that down a little bit quicker.
I've got oregano in the corner of my eye before.
Oh no.
I was blending and I got a little bit of oregano on me, and then I just kind of had like you just instinctively, and I kind of went like this with my finger, and it got like on my eye, and my eye was bloodshot and red. And actually I used coconut oil, and I started kind of rubbing with a makeup pad, coconut oil, and even putting a little bit of coconut oil like in my eye, and it was like instant relief because my eye was on fire. And just adding that little bit of coconut oil, I instantly could kind of you could almost feel like the burning sensation pulling out. But I know this from experience. Don't play with oregano, guys.
No, you do have to be careful sometimes when you're like making a DIY or something, you know, to be careful if you do get anything on your hands, to do a carrier oil first before touching anywhere on your face, because I think all of us have probably had experiences like that when making stuff. There's still a ton of information. Oh, Tyler, did you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, just one quick thing. I think talking about how we react and kind of avoiding these reactions, it's important to not only know how to dilute, but what not to dilute in. And some examples of stuff you don't want to use to dilute a carrier oil is milk is one. It can be used to like ease the skin and stuff, but when it comes down to a DIY, there's just not enough fatty substance in there to hold the essential oil. Water is one, because essential oils are oil. They don't mix with water. And witch hazel is a common one that we get asked about a lot. And there are witch hazel products that contain alcohol, but when you get down to it, there's not enough alcohol in that final product to hold and dilute the essential oil. So that's something you want to avoid as well, because if you use something that's not an appropriate carrier oil, you could lead to these same reactions, even though you did mix it with something. And I think that's important to know as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great point, because some DIYs, you don't have this fatty carrier that can dilute it, right? Some are water-based, and so you're going to need something like an emulsifier that actually emulsifies, right? So it is going to combine the essential oil with that water-based product. And there's a ton of information on our blog about emulsifiers and what is an emulsifier and how do you use it. So I highly recommend you check out Plant Therapy's blog, just planttherapy.com/blog, because there's a lot more information about how to dilute essential oils. If it's a water-based product, how do you use an emulsifier? So I would recommend that out. But we've now talked about what is an essential oil, how do you use it with diluting and the reason for that. But I think it's important to understand the quality of essential oil and what does that mean, right? So Emilee, what is therapeutic grade?
Oh, this is a good question. So therapeutic grade is actually a marketing term that is used by several different companies. Unfortunately, there's not really any kind of substantiation behind that claim. So here at Plant Therapy, when we're creating products and we're making claims about that product, we want to ensure that there's substantiation that supports that claim, right? So if we say that an oil is organic, it has to be a certified organic oil, and that certification starts at the farm, moves through the distillery, goes to Plant Therapy, where we're an organic certified facility. So in order to make that claim, we really have to have that substantiation. But the fact of the matter is, essential oils are therapeutic, right? As long as you're using a quality essential oil that meets a certain standard. So here at Plant Therapy, you'll see we GCMS test all of our essential oils. And not only do we GCMS test all of our oils, we do it several times, which I think is really, really cool. So what happens is we bring in a sample of whatever oil we may be sourcing, and we don't just bring in one sample. We bring in several samples from several different partners, distilleries, things like that. And it goes through kind of like a triage process where we're doing an organoleptic review, and then we're sending the samples off that we like to be GCMS tested so that we can see where they fall against our standards. A lot of our essential oils, we use ISO to compare the standard to, which is kind of like an industry standard, right? So for an essential oil, it will break down the main constituents within that oil and where they should lay, and we review that standard a lot when we're making our decisions. But even beyond that, not all essential oils have that standard, so we have created our own standards to refer to and to ensure that we are experiencing consistency. So that's just the first step. Once we then purchase an oil, it passes the testing, it passes organoleptical review, we bring in the bulk, and then we start the process all over again, because we want to make sure 100% that what we have purchased is what we expected. And so it goes through that same review where we're doing the organoleptic, we're GCMS testing to ensure that it is of the highest quality. And when we're making those claims that lavender helps you relax, that lavender helps you sleep, it calms your skin, that there are the right levels of constituents in order to make those claims.
Yeah, and I think that's really important when you're looking at a company and trying to decide if you want to buy their essential oils. Like Emilee said, it's important for Plant Therapy, instead of saying our oils are therapeutic grade, we're going to give you the GCMS report, right? We're going to say you can look for yourself, you can learn for yourself. We're more than happy to guide you through that GCMS report, because we understand that that's not something that all consumers know how to read. So we're happy to guide you through that. But really what makes up a quality essential oil to Plant Therapy is it smells like it's supposed to, it has a consistency like it's supposed to, and the chemical makeup of the oil looks like it's supposed to, right? There's nothing in there it's not like one constituent is super high and others are lower, because that's often what you see if a company is adding isolates, right? It changes, like all of a sudden you have more linalool and something else is lower, and you think, why is that linalool so high? Oftentimes it's because an isolate has been added. So we're looking really at that whole breakup down to what 0.001% is where GCMS goes. And so we're looking at like everything that's in that essential oil. So that's really what makes up a quality oil to Plant Therapy. And we just are like, here's the proof, instead of saying it's therapeutic grade.
Yeah, we want you guys to know for yourselves, right? Like one thing that's important to Plant Therapy is that we're transparent and that we educate. So not only do we want to give you the information, we want to teach you how to review it, how to understand it. And one thing I really like is a lot of our oils that do have those ISO standards, we actually put that right on the front page of our report. So you guys can actually see the standard and see where we fall. And if we ever fall outside of that standard, there's always a reason behind that, and we're always happy to explain that. But I think it's really important that you guys have the tools that you need in order to feel like you can make educated decisions for your family.
Yeah. One of our customers who's watching live, Erica says, how about a live on how to read reports?
Oh, that would be fun.
Just don't ask me to read the constituents.
the names, the actual names.
Don't have me read the names on the
I mean, that could be
GCMS.
part of the game. We could have a game reading the constituents.
How to pronounce whatever. I can do linalool. That's about it.
But
I do think that's a good idea.
That's all I can say.
There is some blog posts that talk about how to break down a GCMS report and what to look for. So check on our blog, search like GCMS, and then read some of those blog posts. But I think that's a great idea for some future lives. Okay, Tyler, I'm going to bring it back to you with our last question. So we know what essential oils are. We know what isolates, the chemical makeup. Some essential oils are hot, some aren't. Some you dilute more than others. You know, lots of information you can find on the blog. We touched a little bit about quality, but what other ways can you use essential oils besides diluting them and applying them topically?
So the other major use for essential oils that we see, that we commonly use, is diffusion. There's what we call active diffusion, which is when you use like a nebulizing diffuser or an ultrasonic diffuser with water. Active diffusing is when you're actively diffusing it into the air.
The oil's
larger
actually
quantities.
being dispersed.
Go.
Think of it like this. Dispersed. Look at us. We're using our arms for
We're
those
being
that are
very
listening.
visual. If anybody's listening, they can't see that we're doing
We're using our arms to like show like a volcano bursting in the air.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like when it's coming out
It's
of
a great
the
visual.
diffuser.
I'm a visual person, so I appreciate that.
And then, in addition to active diffusion, we have passive diffusion. And passive diffusion, they're still being dispersed in the air, but there's not anything pushing them out that way. Instead, they're just doing what they do, and they, are volatile. They're breaking down, dispersing in the air that way. So when you use a passive diffuser over an active diffusion diffuser, the smell isn't going to be as strong. You're going to smell it. It's more like if you're sitting at a desk and you have a passive diffuser sitting on your desk, you're going to get those gentle aromas that aren't overwhelming and that are just much lighter. Or if you use it on your nightstand, if you're facing that way, you're going to get some of that aroma that's going to help you calm down and rest. But when you put one in the middle of your living room or dining room, it's not going to be enough to scent your room because there's nothing pushing it out. There's no carrier dispersing it into the air enough for it to fill a room like that.
Yeah, I like to think of passive diffusion as like you're smelling the oil like disappearing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's not super strong. And that's what you're going to see with like our Lotus diffuser or even the Reed diffusers, right? You are smelling the oil disappearing. So I think when you think about it like that, there's maybe less expectations on how strong that scent is.
I did a micro live on this yesterday, actually. So if anybody wants to know a little bit more about passive diffusion, it's on our page, actually. Danny and I did a little micro live on passive diffusion yesterday.
That is great to know. Okay, Tyler, I think that's it for our questions. Thank you for joining us. I feel like poor Tyler with these three talkative girls, but we appreciate all of your knowledge and the time you take to help educate our customers. So thanks for joining us today, and thank you for helping us, start this 101 with our customers.
Thanks, Tyler.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, Tyler. Okay, again, thank you to Tyler for coming and answering some of those questions and just giving you all some basic information about what is an essential oil, right? As you start to use them, especially if you're new, it can be super overwhelming. And so we like to break down some of these concepts and words that you might be hearing, like isolate, blend, dilute, right? And it can feel overwhelming, and we don't want it to be. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Next, we have a bathroom odor obliterator.
Obliterator.
I
Say
wanna
that 10
say- I
times
know, I
fast.
really
That
want
is
to. It's
fun.
kind of a fun word. We have a DIY for you today that Darby is got. I just like choosing. I don't actually
It's
know.
okay.
who
Well,
it is.
it is
Darby
Darby.
actually
Good.
prepared the ingredients,
Good.
so I at least know where everything
Good.
is.
So
That's
we
okay,
have a
so.
DIY that Darby is going to put together for you.
I feel like this DIY is perfect for Darby too, because isn't like a Harry Potter spell obliviate or something
Probably. I
like
thought you were
that?
going to say because it's a toilet spray. And I was
And you
like,
have two
where are
boys.
we going with this?
You have two boys. That's where we need to go. Well,
Emilee's
three,
trying to say, so,
technically.
yeah, I do have, I would say I have 2 little boys and 1 big little boy.
I was
so.
just calling out your Harry Potter love is all.
Oh, yes. I will. I should have brought one of my wands, guys.
There you go.
As
You
you're
guys listen
making
to
the
our
DIY.
podcast. If you listen to our podcast,
listen
you know
to
that
our
I have
podcast.
like 9 wands.
Yeah. Listen to the podcast. Okay, Darby, while you are headed over there, we just have some questions. Danny, is this DIY found on the blog? Do you know?
believe so.
I think it is too. I'm pretty sure
It
I
is,
see
yes,
the
I mean,
obliterator.
Yes.
The obliterator
The
DIY
obliterator.
on the
Just
blog.
Just
type
search
in
obliterator.
And Valerie wants to know, what candle do we have going here? I actually don't know.
I don't know either.
See if you can guess.
Well,
Is
I
it
know.
candy
I think
cane?
I know what it is because I could smell it. Look,
I
was-
can
Yeah.
smell it over here because my nose is.
and it was lit like right before the live.
yeah. This is one of my favorites, which is crazy because I'm not a floral dude.
Okay, then it's not candy
It's
cane.
rose.
It is. I knew
Yeah,
it.
bamboo rose.
I could.
Bamboo
So I was sitting
rose.
there. I was like, it's
Oh,
bamboo
it's
rose.
so good.
The good thing about that, I mean, you know, those that have watched our lives for a long time know that Retha is not a fan of any florals. Look at me using my name like that. But I will say that the bamboo rose is super warming. It's like it's wrapping you in a hug, right? It's not like rose in your face. It's like this warm rose hug, which I do really appreciate with
like a
it.
spa rose.
Yeah,
like it reminds
just like
me
really
of a spa
warm
day.
and quite lovely, honestly. And the lavender vanilla one, you know, I'm also not a
that's
fan
my
of
favorite.
lavender, but it is amazing.
good.
I always have it going next to my bed at nighttime because it's just so like, oh, it's absolutely lovely. Okay, Darby, it
Okay,
is your
I'm ready.
turn. Let's
I'm ready to
obliterate
obliterate.
these DIY, these
I am
bathroom
ready to
scents.
obliterate. All right. So
she's like-
I need my recipe. There we go.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so our bathroom odor obliterator. I love this because it's simple. These ladies know this about me. I am not a huge DIYer, guys. I am not a DIYer, but I'm going to be today. So what you'll need is a 4-ounce spray bottle. And then your choice of citrus oils. And I prepared this DIY, so I chose my favorite citrus oils. So we have our grapefruit, we have blood orange, and we have lemon. But you could use probably any citruses that you would like. And then you're gonna need vegetable glycerin and water, and then some Optifin Plus, which I'll talk about here in a second. So first thing you're gonna do is you're going to get your vegetable glycerin, and you're gonna use a tablespoon of this. All right.
Where
and
can you get vegetable glycerin?
I think you could probably get this at the grocery store, to be honest,
think
in like
so.
the baking section.
Or Amazon, it's always a nice
Or
one, too.
Amazon.
Yeah.
My favorite place to shop besides plant therapy is Amazon. Or plant therapy on Amazon.
Wait, I was like, you can also get plant therapy on Amazon.
Best of both worlds. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of this vegetable glycerin. I'll be honest, I've never bought vegetable glycerin before. So
we have it here.
I was taking a guess. So you're gonna add your tablespoon of vegetable glycerin. It says into the bottle. I'm gonna mix everything into the water actually, and then pour it into the bottle. But you could do it either way. I'm just really messy, so I'm gonna put that in there. And then you're gonna wanna add 20 drops of each essential oil in here. So ideally you're gonna have a total of 60 essential oils in there. So we'll start with our grapefruit. Oh, this is the nerve-wracking part. And citruses, they go really fast. Okay, so we have.
This is why Retha and I don't volunteer to do the DIYs.
I've done enough DIYs, and unfortunately, my drops are never correct. I'm always like 4, 5, however many actually fall into it.
Oh, I got 20 of grapefruit,
Oh,
guys.
yay.
20, woohoo. Okay,
So
1 out
20
of 3.
each with a total
20
of
each.
60.
Yes, total of 60.
Count with her.
Maybe, hold on. This one's being naughty.
Oh, it might be empty.
It's not, but
Okay, good.
We used to have prop essential oils, and I would go to make a DIY and it would be an empty bottle. I was like, this is awkward.
Well,
Just
my mom,
pretend. There's plenty of orange.
Celeste, who's watching us live, said this is my most made DIY.
Oh, no
Celeste,
pressure.
what do you use in yours?
Oh, that's a
curious.
great question.
There might be a little bit more than 20 drops of lemon. Just saying, guys.
That's
But
okay.
I got really close. I know I got really close. Okay, so we have our 60 drops of essential oils in here, and now you're gonna swirl. I did have a little mixer, but it didn't make it back onto the table, so I'm gonna swirl.
sorry.
I'm gonna obliterate. It's okay. I'm gonna obliterate this, and I'm
You do
gonna
need your
mix
wand.
it. But yes, I do need my wand. And then you're going to add water to fill. I already added this into the water. You're gonna shake before using. I wanna talk just really briefly about the Optifin Plus. It's an optional ingredient, and I'll tell you why. So Optifin is kind of a natural preservative, and you're gonna wanna add like 0.5% of that to this since it is a water-based product if you plan on not using this very frequently, or if you plan on just putting this like in your bathroom. If you don't have a preservative, it's okay. You'll just wanna make this in small batches, and you'll wanna keep it in your refrigerator and try to use it within a couple of weeks. So you don't have to have the preservative, but it helps if it's something that you're gonna like set in your bathroom and have for a while. Like we talked about earlier, I have stinky boys, so mine would probably be used up so fast that I wouldn't necessarily. And the Optifin Plus is actually already added into the water too. just so you
Remy
guys
loves
know.
to spray. Like he always, Mama, can I spray? I'm like, why? He just likes to do it. So it would go very quickly at my house too.
So once I get this into the bottle and get the cap on, I'm gonna shake it up a little bit too, just to get that glycerin and your essential oils and your water and all that fun stuff all put together. So you just get a little shake, shake, shake.
What is the glycerin for? That's a great question.
That is a good question. So glycerin is actually what's going to kind of help bind everything together, because essential oil 101, essential oils and water do not mix.
Yep.
So when you add essential oils just to water itself, they're going to all float to the surface. So you want an emulsifier or something in your ingredient that's going to help disperse those essential oils into your water, and the vegetable glycerin serves as that.
Yep.
Okay, so I mixed it up. Who wants to be obliterated?
Oh no.
Who's ready?
I feel like Danny needs obliterated.
Well, that's true.
Oh, that smells so good, guys.
I mean, you
So-
can't go wrong with citruses,
That
right?
smells so yummy.
So do you
I
just
love it.
spray this in the bathroom after you've done your duty? Or is it one of those just spray in the toilet?
Well,
What's
that's
the-
what I was going to say, is you can just spray it in your bathroom, but I have taught my little young men that if they're going to use spray, that you actually spray it into the toilet bowl, because then it is more pleasant aroma coming out of it.
Oh,
So you can do both. But
perfect.
Awesome.
Wow,
Thank you.
you obliterated
Thanks, Darby.
that.
I obliterated
She did
it.
obliterate.
I feel
obliterate.
Obliterate.
A blibber?
She obliterated that DIY.
I obliterated.
Way
I
to
don't think
obliterate.
that's actually a good way to say it. Thanks, Darby, for that. And again, that DIY is found on the blog, planttherapy.com/blog. Just search obliterate, and you'll find that bathroom DIY. Okay, we have a giveaway for everyone. 3 lucky winners are going to win an essential oil gift set. Danny, do we know what one? Or just any?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise, but it is going to be an essential oil gift set, and there are going to be 3 lucky winners. So how you are going to enter is you need to enter via the giveaway link, which can be found in the live description as well as in the comments of the live. So check that out. You have until midnight tonight. So whether you're watching or listening to this live, or you are watching or listening later, as long as you go and enter before midnight tonight, you will have a chance to win one of 3 essential oil gift sets. So good luck to everyone. Make sure you go and enter that. Feel free to share it with all of your friends. Maybe if they win, you can split the gift set or whatever works. But go check that out, and make sure you enter before midnight tonight for a chance to win one of those 3 essential oil gift sets. Okay. And that is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this Essential Oil 101. Thanks for joining us on our Plant Therapy Live today, your source for natural product news and education. If you enjoyed today's show, we always ask that you comment, like, share the show, and subscribe to our channels. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast channel, which is really anywhere that you can get that you listen to your podcast. Those are always really fun to to go and listen, because we have a show after the show that we do on the podcast that's always fun to listen. Well, at least we think it's fun to do. Hopefully you enjoy listening to it. But go and check those out. We always appreciate you liking, sharing, commenting. It just gets our lives out to more people. So we always appreciate you doing that. And happy plantings.
Bye.